I want to be in here. Yeah. Okay.
Good evening. It's an honor for me to be here. Bernie Schwartz is somebody I would like to be. He's had a remarkable life from Bensonhurst to where he is today in this room with people who are friends of his and admirers of his. He's written a book, a lovely title, Just Say Yes, something I've been saying for a long time. I love the idea of just say yes, and in a sense of mission, in a sense of this will be fun, and this you'll get a lot out of this. I should say from the get-go that he's been enormously a good friend of mine and a supportive of the work that I've done, and I'm deeply appreciative of that. He's an interesting man for many reasons because he's had a full life in terms of both public and private, in building something that was remarkable, having earned the respect of people cross-section, from business people he worked with, named Norm Augustine at Lockheed Martin, many of you know, spoke in the highest terms. Colin Powell said he had as much integrity as anyone, any contractor with the Pentagon that they dealt with. President Clinton, Secretary of State Clinton, and a remarkable group of people. And it has to do with human qualities that he has learned in his life, growing up, as he would say, in Queens, and coming to the kind of rural life he's had, an international life, knowing heads of state around the world. So I want to begin with understanding this life that he has lived, and at the same time understanding his own analysis of people, and also his assessment of where this country is today in March of 2014. Clearly, he has ideas about America, its infrastructure, how to create jobs, and all those things from a lifetime in the public and private sector. I want to also, each of you, to know that this will work best if what he says resonates and you have sort of yes but questions, or you have things that you would like to say, or either vis-a-vis to him, with him, ask questions about your own experience and the lessons learned. Let me just begin with the thing that interests me also is negotiation. I mean, he's been a superb negotiator, and how do you do that? I mean, is it the secret simply being able to say to somebody, just say yes and you got a deal? That's not quite it, is it?
No, it is not.
Why did you call the book Just Say Yes?
At Loral, we had a free and open exchange among the executives. We had a very small executive group, and that was part of our style. And we had open discussions and often aggravated and involved discussions. Yeah. But there used to be a time when at the end of a discussion, at least I thought it was the end, we would make a decision. Decisiveness was very important to us. And we make a decision about which way we're going to go. But some of the more vociferous would continue to talk. Yes. And argue. And after a while, I would lean forward and just say yes. And it got to be not an irritant for the people at Loral. It got to be a joke. Yeah. And I was saying it more than I thought I should and thought I did, but that's how it came about. Yeah.
Well, you understand negotiations, and one of the principles that you have lived by is that they work best if it's a win-win.
Well, not always. I think everybody has his own style. I was successful when it came to Loral. I had a business experience that was in several areas. I dealt with a lot of people. One of the people I dealt with was Saul Steinberg. Right. And I used to buy all the companies for that company. And he used to sell them. And he said, "You're a lousy seller because you won't get my price." Yeah. And I used to be a good buyer because I wasn't getting my price. I was getting our price, the price that was good for the seller as well as the buyer. If it wasn't a win-win situation, it was not long-term. And we were building a long-term structure, a long-term company, a long-term executive group. Them being on board was as important as making the deal.
You always wanted to know what was important for the person sitting across the table.
That's what made it happen. When I came to the defense industry, it was not doing well as a business. I saw opportunities in it that others did not see in it after some due diligence. And the interesting thing about the defense industry was that everybody was down on it. I saw the possibilities. And therefore, I was able to build not only Loral, but other companies could come on board with the promise that we were not going to cut out your legal department, because we have a legal department. We're not going to cut your accounting department, your public relations department. We're going to build rather than cut down for long term. And I made them believe that through experience. And it worked for us. It worked extremely well for us.
Before all this, when you were growing up in Bensonhurst, what did you think you would do? What kind of life did you think you would have?
Bensonhurst was a middle class, lower middle class Jewish neighborhood in Brooklyn. It represented what my family was, a typical middle class, honest, hardworking group. My father was an entrepreneur. I played stickball in the streets. I played stoop ball. My father was a baseball player. He taught us all how to play baseball. What changed my life was City College. And when I went to City College, it opened up an entire life that prior to that, we only knew something about.
Yeah.
I was the first person in my family to go to college. And the city became my campus, our campus. And we were all over the city and all over the cultural values and so many resources that were available. And I became a different person. And that's part of what payback is all about. Yeah, I met my wife there, which was not so unimportant. And we had a very lucky life. And paying back part of that to the other kids who were coming up. They're different kids today, but every once in a while they invite me to a brown bag paper lunch. We talk. Yeah. And it's just a conversation. And they're different than we were. They talk with an accent. There are a lot of Russian kids. There are a lot of black kids. There are a lot of Asian kids. But they're the same kids. And it's wonderful to be with them.
And when you were practicing law, did you ever think you'd be running a business?
Yes, I always thought I was going to be in business.
Really?
My father was entrepreneurial. My older brothers were entrepreneurial. It was just where we were going to be.
And how did Loral come about?
Loral was interesting because, as I say, I was involved with other companies, and we had done well, and I had done well. Bob Hodes was a lawyer, the head of Wilkie Farr in New York. He called me one day and said, would you have lunch with some of the directors of Loral? I'm a director of Loral, and we're not doing well. So I got some Standard & Poor's sheets and studied up for about 20 minutes before the meeting. Yeah. And when I met with him, I said, you're in a lot of businesses you know nothing about. You ought to get rid of those businesses. You're in one business you know something about. You should stay in that business. At the end of that, Hodes said, you know, people would like you to do that. Yeah. What would it take for you to do that? I said, I don't want to leave what I'm doing to go to Loral. But that's what happened. Because I saw in the military business an opportunity to work together with competitors and customers and build a society within the atmosphere of the business that had a morality to it, that understood that building was important, that sharing the wealth was important. Everybody at Loral got rich. And it was because we had set up a stock option program, one of the largest at the New York Stock Exchange, where everybody participated. And everybody felt that they were part of the success. And then later on, as we got bigger, we began to go to the bigger companies like Ford and Goodyear and LTV and so many of the big ones, IBM, and said, you're not doing well with your military business. We can do well with your military business. Mm-hmm. And they were happy to sell it to us. And so we made 16 acquisitions in a period of time. We grew tremendously. A $100 investment in Loral in 1972 when I started was worth $17,000 when we sold out to Noel Morgenthau.
That's a nice appreciation.
So, yeah.
But before that, you mentioned Saul Steinberg. You were what? You were chairman of LISCO? What you were?
I was I was president of Leesco.
Leesco, yeah.